This is a weird one today, guys.
It is.
Okay, so am I. So,
So one of the things that came up earlier in the week, and once in a while, someone will watch a video that we do.
Mhm.
In fact, earlier this week, someone reached out to me on LinkedIn because one of the very earliest ones we did, John, had
Mhm.
a concept that this person was just like really fired up to talk about.
Oh, cool.
And so you guys have never seen this, but I have it's usually I prune it a lot. I try to keep it under 100. I don't do very well. Right now it's standing at 97 or so.
Okay.
But a lot of the concepts that and ideas that I sort of flesh out, I try to bubble up the top like 100 or so into either a slide with one thing on it or a slide with many things on it. And then I pull from that when it's time. It's almost like a visual representation of the 2,500 or so ideas that I have recorded. But these are like the most talk worthy. Some of them are just useful for me, and some of them are useful for other people. So
Nice.
Dr. V earlier this week, in one of the after shows, talked about how we've got the new. We haven't yet set an official date, and we haven't started letting people know. But around the middle of October, so
Yep.
2-3 weeks from now, we're going to do another live free workshop. Basically, it's not basically. It is going to be around marketing ideas that are usually forgotten. What happens is, and like the great Dave Trott, by the way, if you've never seen anything by Dave Trott, you should go on YouTube and watch one of his talks. One of the things Dave Trott talks about in one of his books is that we'll have concepts and ideas, like as a society or as an industry. We'll build terminology on top of it. And then everyone who comes after us only learns as far as the terminology and never actually gets down to the basic ideas. And therefore, when the terminology or like those concepts at that layer like stop working or whatever, or there's too many of them, people just sort of throw up their hands in despair. And marketing is a great example of that. Like if you're in marketing, right, or you just joined marketing, or you're starting your own company and you're kind of responsible for your own marketing, it's very easy to fall into the trap of thinking, okay, well, I need to make decisions about, am I gonna like advertise on social? Should it be Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever? Should I do content marketing? Should I start a blog? These are all second layer stuff. That's all basically terminology and tools.
Mm-hmm.
And the very basic, there's only 3 parts to marketing. It's like it really is that simple. And every decision you're going to make at the terminology or tools level or above is really just like which of these 3 parts am I dealing with right now and what makes sense for me. It's far simpler than it seems, but nobody ever thinks about the underlying stuff. They go straight to they become overwhelmed by the complexity of choice. And really, there's only 3 steps here. It's only ever 3 steps total.
That's why I want a fixed price menu when I go out to eat.
Yeah. Right. That's why people are happier with their choices if they only had 2 or 3 things to choose from than 15 or 100.
Exactly.
So what I thought we would do, because there's a lot of these ideas around here, and so we're thinking about this one, 20 marketing ideas anyone can use every day. And I keep saying basically today, it's a terrible crutch. We run a video at the beginning of Website Wednesdays where it's to music and it just shows these 20 sort of concepts around marketing or 20 like ideas or recommendations or assertions. And Dr. V mentioned earlier the week that there were a few there that he's seen a few times because we run the video a few times, but he had questions about, but we never actually get to it because that's not what Website Wednesday is about. It's not about the intro video.
Right.
Well, what I figured I might do is if you can, let me see if I can make this a little bigger. I don't know how well you can see it. You guys, we were trying to come up with ideas for today's show and realize that ideas could be today's show.
Yeah, it's
So
Dean's
if
idea
anything here
library.
that you have a question about, or if you just want to pick a number from between like 1 and
Pick a number.
6, we'll pop into it, and on the spot, I'll explain what I'm talking about.
Pick a number.
Is that 23?
23. What's 23? Yes. So insights require boredom. Companies outsource boredom to people like you.
Yeah.
Especially for people who they sort of like they have a deliverable, right? But they're like
Yeah.
a service-based business,
Hmm.
and sort of even a higher level kind of service-based business. Companies, I don't know if the last time you guys ever worked for a company, like a Fortune 500 or just like a worked in corporate America or whatever. But people working at jobs in companies rarely have an opportunity or a long enough time period spanning hours or ideally days or weeks to be bored enough to come up with actual insights. Corporate life is very much about not having an empty calendar. And there's
No, it's
always someone who
chaos
invites
and
you to
busyness.
some meeting that you even don't even need to go to. And yet
Mhm.
you skip enough meetings and people start wondering if you still work there.
Hmm.
Right.
Right.
Insights come from boredom. You have to, how do I put this?
So you
This
need
actually
time to
came from a
reflect.
talk I gave at McGill University last year.
Okay.
And the theme of that talk was how to sort of live rent free in other people's heads. And one of the concepts there is we never give ourselves enough time to be bored. We can't wait in line at a bank or a Starbucks without pulling out our phone and scrolling. People won't even go to the bathroom without their phone so they can occupy and distract themselves while they're doing whatever they're doing in there.
So is boredom the right word, though? I mean, it's almost like just quiet time or a time to do nothing.
Oh, boredom is definitely the right word.
Really?
Because even if you stop with the distractions, even if
Yeah.
you just put down your phone for 5 minutes, you decide I'm going to put it down for 5 minutes, right? A rush of ideas and did I do this? And maybe I should do that. And I hope I remembered what's for lunch and all this like junk sort of comes in your head, right?
Mm.
And John and I actually had the discussion in one of the videos, the difference between boredom and meditation. What I'm talking about is not meditation. Meditation is you're trying to quiet your mind and be present in the moment, right? And
Right.
focus on your breathing and whatever.
Except
That's
that
not what this is.
except that your prefrontal cortex is actually highly activated during meditation, which is really kind of a neurological
So,
conundrum. So
yeah. But around getting
Mhm.
insights and
Yeah.
being bored to do it, there's a lot of stuff that builds up in your head. We're constantly distracting ourselves. We're constantly putting junk into our heads.
Mm-hmm.
And by junk, I just mean stuff that we have not yet ascertained it has value or not. It might, but most of it doesn't. Right. And then you sort of give yourself enough time. That's going to be 5. It's going to be 25. It's going to be X number of minutes where all that stuff just has to push through. You remember a week or two ago, I said all of these things seem to be related, right? I said that the number one instant difference between a professional writer or a copywriter and everyone else is when you turn on the water to get a drink of water and you have to wait for the warm water, room temperature water in the pipes to flush out before the cold water comes in. Or inversely, in a shower, you have to turn on the faucet, turn on the shower head, and then wait for the room temperature water that's already in the pipes to be flushed through so that the hot water can start coming at you, right? The difference between a professional writers and everyone else is professional writers understand that the first whatever amount that they write is going to be the room temperature water and it's junky and it's throw it away. Everyone else says, well, I wrote that. There was effort there. I'm going to leave it there and I'm going to make all the readers go through the effort. Even though I don't
This is what you mean by the second right answer.
Right. It's related to the second right answer. Yeah.
Got it.
So, right, companies can't do boredom. There's no company that will allow its employees to be bored long enough to come up with a lot of insights.
What about at the boardroom? The boardroom says bored.
If only, right? You should rename it to the boardroom.
The boredom.
But so companies outsource boredom to people that are, freelancers and consultants and whatever. They'll outsource that boredom to other people who take the time and pay the price in boredom. And boredom's not comfortable. It's it's uncomfortable. If you're not doing something and you're just being bored, by definition, you're probably not making money in that hour or that day. But they outsource that boredom in order to get insights to other people. That's what
this makes me curious because I had a client who actually paid me a significant amount of money, and I said I just wanted to pick your brain. In other words, he wanted me to look at his stuff from a different perspective, and not be rolling around his own little hamster wheel.
He's paying for the boredom that you've already paid for.
Okay.
The boredom and insights and you willing to spend time on something that other people, or you beforehand or years before wouldn't have spent time on. And, just sort of, boredom involves a lot of trial and error. Boredom is not necessarily sitting quietly. You might be walking or exercising, but basically you're not jamming new stuff into your head. It's very hard for people to unhook and stop jamming new stuff into their head long enough for their brains processing to catch up, think through all the room temperature water stuff, and start getting into what you actually wanted.
I want hot ideas from the
Yeah.
Dean Wayne Library. The Dean Wayne Library coming to you today.
So that was that one.
Like that one.
Mm.
You want to pick a number or pick a slide?
Pick a number, pick a slide, pick a slide. Where's that second right answer thing? I always like that.
This one here?
Yeah, this is the one it fascinates me.
Okay. So one of the most powerful concepts of all, right? Second right answer.
Yeah.
Depending on sort of how fast you can come to an opinion on something, almost everyone can almost instantly provide an answer to a question that they've never heard. But it's a pat answer. It's a snap answer. Someone can ask you your opinion about some celebrity, some political party, some concept they read in a book, something that their friend told them or whatever. Like, what do you think about that? And almost everyone has instantly has a right answer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right as in it's correct.
Well, all answers are subjectively right or wrong anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. But they have, like, the first thing that comes to mind, or the first idea you get, or the first thing that you think is the right way to do something is your first right answer. It might not be the first answer you come up with. So, like, you think about it. No, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to take that route to get over to that movie theater. But I can take the other. Yeah. And then that's your right answer, right? That's a first right answer. There are so many people in the world doing so much creating in the world. I don't mean as in like artistic, amazing creations, but, writing things that have never been written before, or recombining ideas or whatever, that it's very easy and not valuable at all in the marketplace to only have first right answers. There's just too much competition. They're not valuable in and of themselves anyway, usually. But in almost every case, there is a second answer. It's also right, but it's pulling from stuff. It takes longer to get to. And oftentimes you can't force yourself to it. And most of the time you have to get the right answer done first and then say, that's not bad. That's a good answer. I bet there's a second one.
You just get it out of the way.
You need to get it out of the way. It's your crappy first draft, right? It's your crappy first draft answer.
My mental crappy first draft.
What else, right? What else did I do? Like, or else you're just like you're taking a walk, or you're shaving or whatever, and then a line from a podcast that you heard 4 years ago springs to mind, and you realize like that combined with the other thing would be awesome. That's your second right answer.
That makes a lot of sense to me, because that's happened to me a lot, where something just kind of pops into my consciousness and then it noodles around and connects with something else. And it's like, wow, that actually is pretty amazing. And it's far better than anything I've thought of previously.
Yeah.
Right.
So the second right answer is where all the money is. Just the first
If
right
this-
answer. A lot of people will do the first right answer.
Yeah.
Almost no one wants to push through or provide enough time for the second right answer. The second right answer is where all the novelty and new value is.
But in the first one, well, you enjoy do better something novel and cool. You have novel, cool. Oh, but so the first bullet point here talks about you enjoy and do a better job showing something cool, novel, or interesting. So you're referring to that as being the second right answer.
Well, those are characteristics of the second right answer. This slide actually comes from one I gave to a group of chief technology officers about what and how and why they're asked to give presentations, to why sales drags them into a meeting.
Okay.
And so, if they go through and figure out the second right answer, and have the second right answers, then they'll do a better job. They'll enjoy the thing and blah, blah, blah.
Got it. Okay, so for some reason, my brain went into that. This is referring to the first right answer, and I was like, "Well, what's wrong with novel and cool?" So, gotcha.
So there you go.
That's cool.
We only managed to clear this whole thing is, get new get ideas fast. We've only
Yep.
managed to do 2 in 16 minutes.
Oh no, that's okay.
All right, you have another slide or concept, or you want to
I
just
like
randomly pick a number?
what's the one you can't go wrong? It's really hard to see.
It's on this.
It's
Oh, you
below
can't go wrong
20.
writing for listeners instead of viewers.
Yeah.
Okay, so whether someone is watching on a screen, or they're with you, sort of one-to-one, face-to-face, or whatever,
Mhm.
or they're like they're readers, and you've like written an article or a blog post or whatever, you'll almost always be better served writing for listeners instead of viewers
Mhm.
or readers. Yeah, you're almost always better writing for the ear than writing for the eye. Because in
Even for a
most
speed
cases,
reader?
writing for the eye is like it's literal. Writing for the ear, by definition, is writing for the imagination. It's writing for their imagination, for their theater of the mind.
So you're talking storytelling, oral tradition, sitting by the campfire, as
This is
opposed.
actually, it has a couple things in it. One,
Okay.
you're writing for listeners means writing at a much simpler and lower grade level,
Okay.
Mhm.
like right off the bat. And you, by forcing yourself to say, I'm going to stick to 5th grade or 4th grade reading level, you force yourself to use fewer words. You use more concrete words and concepts, and you end up using more visual words.
Right.
Words that evoke imagery.
Mm.
And so if you're writing a script, in my case, I'm writing a script for someone who's, doing a webinar, or I'm helping them rewrite something for a presentation, or I'm writing a headline or whatever, I'm mostly concerned with if someone, with how it sounds to them. Like
Right.
ideally someone could read them the headline, and their brain would instantly create a picture or a movie just from the handful of words. Right. We did one for, I mean, we as in we, then this group right here. We did, you remember a few weeks back, we did the moving companies for Website
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Mhm.
Right. And they had something about, I mean, I don't know what it was, the moving company. It was like, it was obviously written for readers. It was just blah, 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 blah. And then the new version was, this is how Boston moves.
Right.
Right. Someone could read you that with you had your eyes closed, and you would get a picture of somebody doing something.
Right.
Whereas before, it was literally nothing that you could sort of pull a picture out of.
So this is basically, you're selecting your words carefully to stimulate a vivid imaginary picture that has emotion attached to it, or just the
Yeah.
picture
In my case, it's mostly throwing away most of the initial concepts that I'm coming up with for that headline, let's say, and seeing what's left. So I started in the other direction. A whole bunch of stuff rushes in and says, oh, I need a headline for this. I mean, this is why Website Wednesday works, why we can do so much in such a small amount of time. Everything floods in to my, and I'm just like throwing away stuff. I mean, it's internal. You guys don't get to see it, but I'm throwing away all kinds of stuff to see what's left. Usually what's left, I'm throwing them away because they don't evoke anything. They're not catchy. They're too long. The words have too many syllables. I mean, how Boston moves. 3 words, 3 syllables.
So that process of stripping away for you is far more important than, that's the process as opposed to honing in or zeroing in on the kernel of golden truth.
Oh, so if we're going to talk about that and how headlines are done, what I do is I think of the reader's negative present, like the problem that they have or the uncomfortableness or pain or whatever. I think about their positive future. I think about what they might say to somebody about their positive future. Not like, oh, I'm happy that such and such is whatever, but what's an example of here? I did one once for a chief technology officer website where it was like selling things to chief technology officers, like selling a course or something. And the whole point was they would be able to have compelling presentations. Like when they were invited in to, it's odd because it's like a year earlier than the CTO thing I was just talking about. But the picture was, kind of like, a dude, and he's at a table. He's got like a tablet or something in front of him. And there's a couple people around the room, and you don't see necessarily who he's talking to. But the whole idea is like these guys, they hate giving presentations. They hate public speaking. They hate like a dead room. They hate freezing up. They hate an audience that's, not paying attention or, is just bored with them and whatever. And the headline is what they wish they would always be able to say when they've been called in to win the room, so to speak. And it was something like, sorry, I gotta go. I'm already late for my next meeting. Right. Negative present.
I have very little
positive
time to
future,
deliver this message.
what they would say if the positive future existed. That's the headline. Right. And you read it and it's like, that's the simplest thing ever. But, it takes iterations to get to that.
Yeah.
And it's not a formula, right? It's not like, how to blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 when you're blah, 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 even if you don't have blah, 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 and would only be able to do blah, 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 which is a formula, right? And like reads as formulaic. Sorry, I got to go. I'm already late to my next meeting.
There are a lot of copywriting things that do that. They just give you these fill in the blank templates or so. Just put your verbs and not your verbs, put your nouns and your adjectives in there, and you're good to go, allegedly. So, John, pick a number.
A really great headline, will grab people. Yeah. It'll be in their head before they realize they've read the whole thing.
Yeah,
and it's like, and it'll stick.
It's like a brain worm or something. It's like, We got triangles. What are those triangles all about? We got several different triangles. Yeah, you got there and you have some above.
Yeah, two of them look kind of the same.
This is a duplicate, so we can kill that one.
Yeah.
Kill it.
Kill it. This is the structure this is the top performing webinar or 30+ minute presentation structure that I've seen so far especially around pitch decks.
It's red, white, and blue, so it's very patriotic.
Yeah, it's a sort of an interwoven thread. And it goes through these questions and how they're grouped. The first three belong together, and then these, you can see that how does it work takes up the most space. I mostly work with like companies that make something complicated and sell to people who are used to buying something complicated.
They're used to buying complicated.
The geeky part has to happen, but then it's all about like, what are you doing in there?
Yeah.
And so I don't know if I have like the other details. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's fun. Once I had that dialed in, it's like, okay, now I know how to make these from scratch. Go.
Over and over again.
It really sped it up.
And your Venn diagram, what's that one? That's kind of interesting. It's a multicolored. Yeah, this one. Oh, that's the second right. Oh, yeah. Where do you belong? Between assertive and inspirational. So is transformational in the center or no? That's not there at all.
No. Transformational, because I work mostly for B&B, and transformational tends to only work for online courses, beauty, fitness, diet, very few things, religion. Very few
that's
things.
where I live.
I don't write for that very much.
Yeah, okay.
But if you're going to, be persuasive, if you're going to generate excitement and interest and impress, it's a combination of assertive, inspirational with the second right answer. If you get, that's the trifecta. If you've got all three of those, your audience will not want to let you go until they feel they've gotten everything out of you.
Yay.
And then they jump on the table and they say, take my money now.
Yes. You got me all excited there now.
So that's the Venn diagram.
John, what interests you in this world of the
can I
Way library?
Choose one?
Pick a card, any card.
This is the slide that I get into arguments about, and I know I'm right because
And I
I've
know I'm
attended
right.
literally hundreds of sales meetings at enterprise level.
Yeah, I agree with that.
People go in thinking, if only they knew everything that I know, they would buy this. And no, they would not.
No, because you're
They
trying to
absolutely would not. You would
trick them
have
into buying something.
you would have beaten their attention to death long before you talked about all the reasons and things you know about your product or service. You gotta
Yeah, they don't
stop
want to know
doing
the
that.
details. It's that whole argument behind
They just
benefits
want to know what
versus
it's going to do
features
for
and benefits. It's like, oh,
Yeah. And yet, almost every B2B client, we have to say this and we have to say that and we have to include
Yeah.
this. And I say, every time you add one more thing, you're a little tiny bridge. I said, there's a gap on one side, and that's you're there. And there's a gap on the other side,
right.
and they're there. And there's this little rope bridge connecting it.
It's sagging.
A rope bridge will support you enough to get over there, and you can carry one thing. But the more things you try to carry at one time, the more likely the bridge is going to break, and then you've lost them.
The ropes will fray, and the sail will not.
Well,
Right.
that's
The challenge is not in convincing them what to include. The challenge is in convincing them what to drop.
Ugh. Yeah, that's the hardest thing for me, dropping things.
Yeah.
Now, when you say this is something that everybody disagrees with you on, is it just the technical?
Everybody
people that
agrees in
disagree with you
principle,
on
but then
it,
you try to
or-
apply it to them. It's like, well, no, I have to say that, and I have to say this part. And again, we're back to throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks, right?
Yeah.
Well, and this happens and has happened to me in clinical practice, where you got all this knowledge, you got the Latin, Greek terms, all this stuff. You understand all the details of the interaction of various chemicals and Krebs cycle and this and that. But the patient doesn't want to know all that.
No.
Yeah.
Or the prospective patient.
But I do understand this in a sense, because the engineer in me says that everybody wants to know everything before they'll do anything.
Well,
But
not only that,
engineers are not
everyone wants
salespeople.
to tell everything.
Yeah,
But that's
telling.
not
I don't want to leave any
salespeople.
money on the table. If I don't mention this, someone might be interested in that, and that might be the only reason they're going to buy from me. And I didn't say it.
Right.
So they're afraid. And they get the impression, A, that everyone is listening to everything that they say, and B, everyone is listening. Everyone's not listening. Virtually nobody's listening.
Yeah. But I can see where this comes from, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. But would they listen if they were bored? Curious. Just curious.
One never knows.
Pick a CAD. Any CAD.
Any CAD. Such a CAD.
Pick the age of your daughter. Which number is that?
Companies buy results they can't create and results they wish someone else would create.
It's because they're lazy, or they're just overwhelmed with busy work.
Well, they buy results that they can't create because they can't create them, but they need them.
Yeah.
Or want them. They buy things that they wish someone else would create because they don't want to invest the time or the extra resources that they currently have. They could do it. I mean, every company could clean its own offices.
True.
But they don't.
Right. And that's true with everybody. Everybody's got a problem with one possible solution.
And so if you're selling something, especially to corporate clients, you're in one of these two categories. It's very freeing to understand which category you belong to.
Yep.
The first one, there's like known needs, and there will always be a market for it, but it'll be extremely price competitive most of the time.
Yeah.
The second one requires you to sell and convince them to buy it from you. But the margins are way better.
Well, what about so why wouldn't it be combined together, as the company will buy results they'll buy results they can't create, and they
These
hire
are exclusive
you
of each other. If they could create it, but don't, they either can create and they don't want to, or they can't create in the first place.
All right. It's like when we sell Facebook ads and YouTube ads and other things like TikTok ads to people. I mean, they could theoretically take courses and practice and through trial and error develop a degree of expertise, but it's a lot easier for them just to outsource it to somebody else
or buy the technology.
Yeah,
which
or
we
biotechnology.
see lots of people do.
Yeah.
So
Let's see. Pick a number, any number.
Pick a number between 1
What's
and
the
95.
shortest one that's there? I like the shortest one. The one that was just like 1 word or 2 word, 3 words.
and finally,
And finally. So
Oh.
what's the importance of that slide? Is just to create an interruption or give you a little cliffhanger? Or I'm curious about that because it's just like a little connector.
What, like this one maybe?
it's an
Yeah, so
introduction
you
to
can
the
see like these are sort of in order of how the video runs.
Yeah.
And then you will see very short ones like this
Gotcha.
and this, right? Those are there for a reason and they're timed for a reason. You'll notice that they have almost the same number of slides preceding them or right after them.
Ah.
And those are interstitials.
Ooh, interstitial. It's like interstitial.
They are those are interstitial slides. They are there simply to because it's like blah 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 f off blah 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 blah. Right? It's an interruption to the pattern.
Yeah.
And and it sits between two like longer set pieces, and it's there to sort of snap them back to attention again, and then you can go into it again.
Speaking of patterns, what about that little puzzle piece thing in there? The one that's down below after you finish.
Oh, the positioning.
Yeah.
These are the 4 ways that you decide on what your niche is.
Mm-hmm.
So niches. Let's say I don't know. You are something. You're an interior designer, right?
Right.
You can or you're a designer of interiors, not necessarily someone who goes right into someone's house.
Right.
So you can focus on a market.
Right.
I design interiors for homes in the Chicagoland area.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Or a variation of the where is not geographically, but industry. I design interiors for, or it could be radiology centers.
Your sound seems to have gone
Yeah,
down.
you all of a sudden went.
I moved away from my mic.
Yes,
Yeah. The nice part about having these nice new expensive mics is like they don't pick up the other sound, but if you move too far away, you lose it again.
Exactly.
So, so the variation of where is like which vertical or industry, like healthcare, hospitals, radiology centers, inside hospitals, where you are. Then there's the what, which is what you deliver. So I design interiors and hand over the plans, as opposed to I help you design the interior and then I like take care of purchasing all the couches and the wall decorations and all that kind of stuff. So it's like you do something or some subset of something. The why you almost never see outside of NGOs and marketing companies. And the why is you try to define your niche by saying, when we I don't know, months back looked at the various marketing companies' websites and stuff, I said some of them, their websites really had sort of a manifesto feel to them. That's what this is. This is like, we believe in X, and so we do Y because of Z. And that's sort of like the whole point is like, oh, they're sort of like, fancy and or altruistic and or committed to something or whatever, right? And so like that's how they try to set themselves apart, and they would try to attract customers that want to sort of be part of that tribe.
Right. So when you go to the interior thing, it was very interesting because my sister-in-law, my youngest brother, actually works for a design company in Boston Global, and she goes in and creates these corporate spaces for customer service and everything, like American Express and Phoenix or things like that. And so she would answer most of those, I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the last one ultimately tends to be the most profitable. It has the best margins, and that's the how.
The how, okay.
So you deliver the results, but the way you do it is substantially better or different, different and or better for that client or type of client.
Your special
sauce. You can deliver X amount of marketing growth in some radically shorter amount of time, or with much less risk, or with a much higher percentage of revenue or something. Like there's something about how you do it, the methodology, the steps, the approach, the angle you take, right? The how. This is the horse.
Would there be a fifth one, which is when?
No, how. When is inside of how.
When is contained within how? Okay.
Yeah.
I got one for you, Dean. Of all the metaphors, why the horse lady?
Completely random.
Okay.
Just completely
Fair,
random.
fair
I
answer.
had
Was the horse's name random? Hey, random.
wouldn't that be great, right? I remember reading, listening to a radio show years ago where this these people had this is not about the horse lady. They'd had like a bull, and they'd really, it was an amazing bull. He was super smart and everything, and eventually he died, but they managed to clone him. His name was Chance, and they named the clone Second Chance.
Second chance.
Second chance.
I'll never forget that as long as I live.
No, it's funny whenever you talk about this, I always think about Ronald Reagan, because Reagan had a quote that he always felt at ease and all of the stuff when he was riding, and that was his big affection for riding.
Was he bored when he was riding?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's something he just started with the movies, and
he had thoughts popping into his head as he's riding with Queen Elizabeth on a horse.
I don't know. It is interesting though. So it always reminds me of that when you talk about the horse lady, because it's there's a connection to it in a way.
Yeah, I mean,
anyways,
the inclusion of a horse in that story is there for a reason, and it's because, well, first of all, there are people who are afraid of horses, but there's nobody who hates horses.
Yeah, I had several friends when I was taking riding lessons. They wouldn't come near me when I was on a horse.
Right.
I don't know.
They didn't hate the horse. Like, some people hate dogs or hate cats. Nobody hates horses.
I had a horse bite me once. I wasn't too happy with it.
I bet not.
It was a horse of a different color. That horse had bad taste.
So yeah, the reason the horse is there is just because, people have warm feelings about horses, and so I can, I can ride on that. No pun intended.
Yeah, I got you.
A whole TV show called Mr. Ed Wilbur.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Oh, here's the second one about the second right answer that you might get better use out of.
Okay. Domain.
By people, I mean an audience. An audience that's new to the whole thing wants the first right answer first.
Okay.
Right. And then once they feel they understand the domain of their problem, then they're open to a second right answer.
So it's your job to make them aware of the details of the problem, or to show that you understand it?
Neither. It's my job to come up with the second right answer.
Well, let me say, after they've heard from other vendors. Well, yeah, I'm never in that position, or maybe I am sometimes.
Well, think about anything that you've never bought before and have to do some research on, and then make a decision on what you're going to buy or who you're going to buy from. So first you go to Google and you get whatever, problem 101, right?
Yeah.
Problem X 101. And you just say, okay, here are all the basics. Here are the main set pieces. Here are the moving parts. Here are the assumptions and blah, blah, blah. Right. And then you kind of understand it. And then there are people who sell this and that and said, oh, there's an interesting take on it. That's the second right answer.
Yeah. Well, I keep
they're
coming back.
They're fixing a problem I didn't even realize I could fix at the same time that I fixed problem X.
I keep coming back to pretty much we're all making emotional decisions and then rationalizing it later. I think that whole notion of the book, Predictably Irrational, pretty much hits. Wait, where are you doing here now? Be the green.
This is one of the earliest diagrams that I did. Obviously, it's really awful, but what it's saying is
it shows your artistic.
When you're trying to write or communicate, and I think this one was specifically made for an audience around writing LinkedIn profiles. Yeah, you don't go from your heart to their heart. When it comes to strangers or in a sales position, people don't trust it at all. And it's too raw and emotional and just weird. If someone starts opening up about, if you read a LinkedIn profile and they start talking about their family problems and stuff, if they think LinkedIn is Facebook, it feels weird, right? It's not the right context. If you go from your brain to their brain, it's too dry. It's unemotional. It's not, there's no imagery there. If you go from your heart to their intellectual context, it's immediately distrusted. So what you want to do is you want to do enough of the thinking so you can go from your head to their heart because they're buying emotionally. They're reading and accepting emotionally.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So be the green. You've crossed the midpoint. And
So yeah, we've talked about this before, and it comes up. It's in another. That particular part is better conveyed in a different diagram.
It's like the green
Yeah,
dot.
it's right here. This would be the green.
Yeah.
Right. So if you went, this is you on the left, and someone else that you're trying to communicate or put an idea in their head or convince them of something on the right, and you go about 25% of the way there. It's like, here's everything. Here's the articles and the links and the books and everything that I read. Make your own conclusion. Right. And if you go halfway and meet them 50-50, it's like, I've done this much of the work, and like I've sort of like summarized it for you. Like, here you go, take it. Right. And if you go 90% of the way, which is where the green dot was, it's like, here's what it means in your terms. Like, I've gone so far that I can now communicate this in ways that you would want it communicated to you, and you understand it at not just an intellectual but an emotional level. And then
what happens in that last 10% though? How do you move that?
If you have years and many, many, many millions of dollars to spend on advertising, you can get to just do it. You can get to da 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 da, right? You can basically just convey the emotion without even conveying the message.
Got it.
No client that I have has years and years and tens or hundreds of millions of dollars to do that marketing. It exists. We all know it.
Yeah.
But you're never going to get there. And also, by the way, I mean, the money it costs and the time it takes to get from 0 to 90, like multiply that by who knows how many. That's what it takes just to get from 90 to 100.
Mm-hmm.
But you can get from 0 to 90 with some work, a little bit of time, and imagination, and putting yourself in the other person's context. All right. And I mean, that's basically what I get paid to do, is figure out the other person's context and how we convey to them what it is you want to convey.
Makes sense.
Sounds good.
But yeah, that's how to communicate an idea. And I mean, I was in a meeting once when I just started a corporate job, where I was the job was to create sales enablement content for salespeople. Like, they basically take what marketing had made for the whole market at a strategic level and sort of transform all that messaging into like really sort of visceral, hard-hitting stuff. And that salespeople would put on a slide, because you can always tell in these meetings if a salesperson just took something from marketing and put it on a slide. Like, it's too overblown, it's too generic. It almost never sort of resonates with anyone. And being able to take that stuff and create really compelling sales enablement stuff, basically what salespeople would put on slides or say to people, that's like a really interesting. I mean, that and project management and copywriting are. I mean, they are literally the 3 most valuable skills I ever developed in my lifetime. But in the meeting, the people who were responsible for creating that stuff, and I was sort of brought in there, said like, hey, all we can do is give them the information. It's up to them to do something with it. And I said, that is absolutely not how this is going to be approached. That's 50-50. We're not throwing it over the fence and hoping they pick it up and run with it. We go 90%, and they only have to take it the other 10. And understand, we go 90% creating this messaging and slides and really easy to follow, understand. You understand the value. There's full of second right answers. We create and go to 90% for that. They get in front of a customer. They have to take that and then go 90% of the way to the customer.
Yeah.
Right.
So if we only went halfway, they have way too far to go. But yeah, all I can do is give them the information. It's up to them. What they do with it is like, I would take a frying pan to anyone's head if they tried to convince me that was my job or that was their job. Terrible approach.
Such violent imagery.
Yeah.
By the way, this is not mine, although I have like examples of it being used. Have you guys ever heard of the scarf model?
No.
I mean,
so basically, there's an advertising guy. His name escapes me right now. I apologize to whoever this is, because I didn't obviously this is just an image I got from Google Images, but the scarf model is really well known. It doesn't belong to these companies. You can think of the scarf model as stuff that people care about, but economists don't. Or economists forget to. And so if you've ever seen the monkey, for instance, in the fairness one, if you've ever seen the video of the monkeys where someone, like the monkey gives, they've learned that if you give like a little pebble to the researcher gives them back a bit of cucumber. Have you ever seen this one?
Sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah, and like so, the researcher, takes a pebble and gives a piece of cucumber. And goes to there's two monkeys, and goes to the second one, and they can see each other. They're right next to each other, but they're in separate cages. And the same thing again. And then it's like, okay, another pebble, another piece of cucumber, but then gives the other monkey for their pebble a grape, which is obviously more attractive and sweeter, right? And then goes back to the first one and tries to. The first monkey sees what just happened to the second monkey, and gives them. It's not an animation; it's like an actual video, right, of this research project that they're doing. Gives them another piece of cucumber, throws the cucumber at the researcher. Like, no, it's not fair. I want the grape. It's so ingrained that even in like lower level mammals, they understand.
Yeah, teach that monkey that life is not fair.
I don't want no cucumber.
The scarf model is a bunch of stuff that even monkeys understand, but
Even
sometimes
monkeys.
we forget. Again, because we're operating only by looking down into that second level of all the terminology and tools, and not understanding the basics underneath it all. Scarf is underneath it all for a lot of stuff.
Cucumber probably just need a little bit of salt.
Yeah, or sugar.
Sugar, honey.
But scarf is handy. And then like I have like those 10 questions. We saw them. And remember the red, white, and blue cable?
Oh,
and
yeah.
like the structure and all the questions. These are the same questions, but it shows like, the status is based on this one, and it draws the lines to show how they all come together.
Huh. Why
it's
now?
Messy, but it's instructive.
So why now goes to autonomy? I'm curious. No, wait. It goes to... Yeah, to autonomy.
Yeah, why now goes to autonomy.
Okay.
It would be a whole other workshop just explaining.
Yeah, no kidding. The entire workshop could be this particular slide.
One slide, 90 minutes. Let's walk through
one
this.
slide workshop.
So anyway, we went way over our 30 minutes.
But it was fascinating to me because I like digging deeper and pulling things apart and finding out the whys as well as the hows.
Yeah. And then I think besides a lot of those marketing ideas anyone could use that we do for our workshop, we may do one more, or I have like a booklet to give away around like the 3 like underlying things for marketing, going from marketing to selling when you're on your own.
Ooh. Way cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's about it. And today's Thursday, so there's no more videos for a few days.
We're done. Yeehaw. I got to do a lot of videos though now between now and Tuesday.
Not me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm done.
You're done.
You're done.
Oh my.
Our job is
all right.
Stick a fork in him. He's done.
Well, that's it for us today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for attending.
Yes.
And we'll be back in a few days.